Well, let's carry on building that ship. Hello and welcome to the Bat and Barrow and part 2 of my ship build. Sorry, my cat is just sort of in front of me and he is looking at the microphone and sniffing it and everything. Hello, cat. Say hello. Yeah, so anyway, so we on to part 2 of the big ship build. Still haven't been able to do what I want to do, and that's the sails, because some idiot, when he ordered some balsa dowel rod things, he didn't realise they were coming from China, and they're taking ages to come. So, but we've got a lot to do in this video anyway, so let's crack on with it. And let's just go. So I knew I was always going to replace the ship steering wheel and the anchors with some sort of resin bits or what have you. So I got these Citurdes ones, which unfortunately these are no longer available because the company has folded really. NOC, the parent company, who are a model railway company, have decided to concentrate on that business. So I managed to get hold of these. So you might have to look for something else. Perhaps 3D printing might come in handy for you here. And what I'm going to do now is just assemble these. These require some minor assembly. Remember in part 1 where I traced around the hull? It's now time to utilise that. So what I'm going to do is cut those bits out, use some masking tape to stick them together. And what I'm going to do is, just in case something goes horribly wrong, I'm going to trace around some other scraps of paper and sort of make a copy of it, just in case. I'm a bit paranoid. This is going to be used to create hull deck maps. So if the players go inside, say the captain's room, or go below deck, I can bust out a sort of battle map, and that's what these are going to be for. So the first one I'm going to do is the actual captain's room, the captain's cabin. And so on the ship, this is 4.5 inches, so I'm just going to mark that out on the back of outline here, and then transfer that across to some foam board without paper on. This is cheap foam board, so it doesn't have paper, as this really takes the texture really well. Once I've cut that out, I'm going to apply the texture, just a planking texture. You've probably seen me do this on numerous videos. If you haven't, they're about 1/4 inch spaced apart. I just gouged it, sort of gouges in using a ballpoint pen, going up and down. I then come in with a sculpting tool and add in some sort of flooring brads, some nails in there, just holding the planks in place. And then with a steel wire brush, come in and apply a texture. This is then glued onto some chipboard that has been cut to shape. Next, I'm going to adjust the outline, and this is why I made a copy, just in case this goes wrong. This is for the first lower deck. Now on the model, the captain's cabin hangs over the decking by 1 inch at the back, so I need to account for this. So I'm going to measure in 1 inch and cut this away, and also going to adjust the sort of end of the boat. It's a bit too pointy, so I'm going to round that off. And I'm going to trace this onto some foam board. Now my A3 sheets aren't long enough, so I'm just going to use 2 butted together and worry about this in a bit. The texture is also applied to this in the same way as before. These are then also glued to some chipboard. The chipboard is only 12 inches, so is definitely not long enough. So I just again use 2 bits of chipboard put together and make sure the join is on the opposite side to where the join is of the foam board, so they can be held together. I then make the lowest part of the hull, the bilge, which will be slightly smaller, about 1 inch in. I'm going to make it all the way around. So I measure 1 inch in, draw a shape around it and cut this out, and then do the same as I've done before with the foam board and chipboard. Next up, I want to add some more detail to this ship, and so being in my world, this ship comes from Erendi, which is a very nautical based location. They're going to decorate all their ships in that manner. So I've got this little silicone shell mould, and I thought some mermaids would be interesting to add to this as well. So I bought some more silicone moulds with mermaids that I can use. This big towel one here, probably not so much. I can put that to one side. I shall definitely be using these ones, maybe this one as a figurehead, although I'm recording this after the fact, so I know that I end up deciding not to use this. And this big one will go on the back of the ship. Now for this I am just going to use some Sculpey clay. This is polymer clay. This is you can work on it forever until you bake it, so it gives you a long working time and it's easy enough to bake. I've used this before. All you got to remember is to follow the instructions. So I'm going to push it into the mould, remove the piece, and then cut away all the sort of excess around it. Bake it following the instructions. When they are baked, they go nice and solid, and now I can glue this into place on the back part here, and then go round and glue others in various places where I want them into on the ship. I'm going to put some shells in places just to enhance the detail and make it stand out more. With those all glued into places, onto the lighting of it again. I sort of covered this last time. I was going to add some lights, but I need to put them into here and have this attached. Now it does fit in quite nice, but I'm worried about it falling out, so I want to hold it into place with magnets, but there's nowhere really for me to attach the magnets or something that the magnet's going to glue into. So I come up with this solution of using a bit of foam with a drawing pin attached, and the magnet fits into that really well. So now I've just got to work out how to get it all in place, and I apologise for the camera angle here. It's really difficult to, one, do this, and two, do it whilst trying to film in. So I'm going to put them here, and so I'm going to have one on each side. I may have one at the top, but ultimately I don't. The two on the bottom are good enough. So for this, cut up another strip of foam, add some glue onto it, because this will hold the drawing place into it. You don't want the drawing pin popping out. So a bit of glue, pop the drawing pin in and allow that to totally dry. What I'm then going to do is attach the magnets to the drawing pins. And then I'm going to work quite quick and do one at a time here. I'm going to glue them in place. I'm going to apply some glue on two edges so they can go on the walls and the floor here, and put them roughly in place where I think they're going to go. Then quickly slam the back place in so it has time to push it back if it's sticking out too far. It's better to have it sticking out too far and push it back rather than it being too far back. And so once I've done this one, I can repeat it again for the other side. With that done, what I'm going to do now is come in and apply some glue to the magnets. And once I've done that, I'm going to then quickly slam the back piece in again, allow the glue to dry fully. This can take a few minutes, don't be tempted to pull it away too soon. And once I'm sure the glue has dried, pull it away, and hopefully the magnets will remain on the back piece rather than onto the drawing pins. And yes, indeed they do. With that done, we can attach our lights. Now this is going to be the same system as the light in the modular houses video, which I recommend you go and watch if you don't know what I mean. These are just little string lights that I'm going to pop into place here. Now I don't want to permanently attach them, so I need to get to them to change batteries and turn it on and off easy enough. So once it's in place, I'm happy with sort of where it is going to go, so it looks the best when it's lit up. I'm just going to come in and glue a little cardboard strap in which will hold the LED light in place. To be honest, you probably don't even need to do this because you're not going to be moving it around that much. You can probably just leave the light in there, but hey ho, I like holding it in place just to make sure it doesn't move around in gameplay. We are now probably on to the meat of this episode, and that's the painting. This is where this boat really comes to life. To begin with, I am going to undercoat it in a burnt umber, and it's a watered down burnt umber. I don't want to cover up too much of the detail we've carved in, and also it's an MDF model so it soaks up paint like no one's business, so watering it down just makes it easier to paint on. Once I have done that and that is dried, I am going to paint the decking boards in a Zandri dust from Citadel Paints. This will be its base coat. Once I've done that and it's dried, I will then go over that with a sort of overbrush, I guess, if you like, of Talon sand, also from Citadel, to get the decking done. Along the sides of the ship, in between the cannon windows, I am going to paint it this swamp brown from Nostalgia 88. It's a nice reddish brown, and do that along the sides and just follow it all the way around. Whilst that's drying, I am going to do a heavy overbrush of this bestial brown from Coat d'Arms, just to give a bit of variation to the wood colour. It already has some already where some of it's soaked in more to the MDF, but it just sort of makes it stand out a bit more. With the swamp brown dry, I am going to paint the row above and below in black, just Coat d'Arms black here, and I'm also going to fill in the cannon compartment window as well. Also, the handrails will also be painted black, so I'm going to go front and back and paint in the black here. It's time to pick out the emboss stuff we did in green stuff, so I am going to use a Coat d'Arms bright gold for this. It's one of my favourite golds. It would be even better if you could see it, but unfortunately I didn't realise my camera was totally out of focus and trying to show you probably my cat rather than the paint. But this is a lovely gold, so I'm going to paint this over the green, everything that's green stuffed, all the shells, and those two mermaids at the back there. The bottom one at the moment I'm leaving. I don't know whether to paint this gold, leave it as wood, or actually apply some decorative coloured paint onto it. So I'm going to leave this for now and worry about that at a future date. Perhaps you can help me decide by leaving your opinion on how I should paint the big mermaid in the comments below. I'm also going to use this bright gold on the sort of bits of wood in between the windows, the sort of window sill, the window frame, but not the cross frame in the middle. I'm going to leave that wood. It's just the top and bottom that I'm going to paint in this bright gold, just to really make this all stand out and pop. Next, we can turn our attention to our detail bit. So I've painted the anchors in a base brown, same as I've done for the hull of the ship, and I'm going to come in with this chainmail from Nostalgia 88 and just pick out the metal details. And whilst that's drying, I want to add some chains to these anchors as well. So I've got these 3 little chain links that I found. I'm going to try and attempt to paint these because even though they're silver, they're too bright as it is. And yeah, this is harder than what I thought it would be. I'm sure there's probably a better method than this, but this is what I did in the end. Next, I want to attach these to that hole on the top of the anchor, so I'm going to come in with a pair of snips here because they're fine nipped. Put them inside one of the top links of the ringlet and pull them open like so, so it widens, and then I can thread this into the top of the anchor, spin it round, and then with a pair of pliers close that gap up so it's in place. And it's actually here that I realised that whilst I was doing this I rubbed off most of the paint, and it's easier now to paint the chain when it's in place on the anchor. It gives you something to hold on to while you're painting it. Next up, I am going to go for some rust effect onto the area. This is a cheap method of doing it. I know there's technical rust paints you can use, but here I am just using a shade from Citadel Paints called Reichland Flesh Shade. If you splodge this on, dip it on in places, it kind of dries and looks quite rusty. With that, we are on to the home stretch. So I've got this is the anchor point that comes with the kit. I'm just going to reuse that for where the anchor comes in and goes out. And so I'm just going to glue the chain onto the hole. Again, easier said than done. I almost touched the glue then. And this is where I really need some super glue activator, which would speed this process up. I keep meaning to buy some and I keep forgetting to, and probably it will be the same in the next video, because you can see I'm having a terrible time here and it would just make this so much more easier. It would be done now. Next up, I am just going to glue the cannon window flaps into place, again just using super glue for quickness. They have been painted using that swamp brown as well. I was considering trying to see if I can have some sort of hinge system, but in the end I figured it's just not worth it. I just have them open. Most of the time it's probably going to be, if I'm going to be using this ship on a table, it's going to be some sort of combat orientated situation, so why not just have them open. And now it's just time to glue all our little extra bits in place. So I'm going to glue the ship's wheel in, just glue it here at the back, and our anchors, just using super glue for speed and quickness, but you can use your glue of choice. These I'm just going to glue in the same place what the actual kit instructions tell me to. Okay, and this is where we are at this stage, and I'm going to leave it for this video. It is looking, in my eyes, really good. Really like it, all the detail work here. This is what the back looks like. Yeah, one thing I've got to apologise for is last video I said that I don't think this stuff will show up when it gets painted. I'm obviously wrong, because it does. It shows up really well, so you probably don't even have to go to the amount of detail work I did scoring all this pattern in. Probably could have saved myself some time, but it's just made it look really stand out. I've got some things to do. I've still got to do something with this. I don't know what colour these would be here. Initially I'm thinking metal, but would you have that much metal on a ship? Would it rust? And obviously the big one, it's a sailing vessel, still without sails. Now I'm still waiting for a part I ordered. I didn't realise I'd ordered it from China, and so it's not here yet. So, but the next video will be doing the sails. I'm not showing off the battle maps for the internals. You know, they're not really that interesting. They're just for when we go down into the ship. I've also removed the mermaid from the front here because it kept breaking, so I'm going to have to look for some sort of replacement for that in the future. But hopefully you can see all the sort of lovely detail work here. I mean, most of it's done via the ship itself, the actual product, the actual MDF kit itself. It just, you don't have to do much to make these things look immensely cool. Yeah, we've got our, it's really quick and easy to get into the battery pack. But yeah, super duper happy with this so far. Looking forward to probably hopefully finish it in the next video, getting the sails on there. It's going to be pretty much it, and a bit of paintwork. So yeah, until then guys, stay safe, take care, bye bye.